Design businesses are often feast or famine, and if you own a firm, you're probably very aware of this. And so is today's podcast guest, Philip Allen, who's the Chief Operations Officer for Lisa Kahn Designs. In this chat with Gail, Philip talks about the importance of keeping up on your financials to know what trajectory your business is on, as well as many more insights.
Philip, thank you so much for being here today and talking about Finding Sanctuary by Lisa Kahn Designs.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Well,
my pleasure, Gail.
Let's just dive right in. Love your new glasses, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, those are great. Okay, so let's talk about you, where you are, what type of work you do, how long you've been in business, maybe a little bit about it.
Okay, sure. So Lisa and I are located in Naples, Florida. We have an interior design practice there that Lisa started in 2000, and I joined her in 2011, I believe. And I started off just helping out with AutoCAD, different things. I had a web development business that was my primary occupation, and I started working more and more at her office because there was a community there and there was coffee there, and of course she was there. I know, right? And so then eventually I just I was helping her with this or that, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew, and then a few years later we made it a more formal agreement between us. I think it was right before or right after we were married. I can't remember exactly what the timeline was, but so yeah, we got married, and I joined the business more formally and did marketing and then I saw needs for HR, so I started working on that, and I saw needs for IT, of course, and kind of having a predilection for that. I started handling that as well, and kind of the list of things just started to accumulate, and about a year and a half ago, I found myself as COO. So now I'm not hands-on directly involved in those things, but I do oversee them, and I'm accountable, of course, to Lisa for delivering an operation that can help achieve her vision.
That's so great. And
Yeah.
I love the way you two work together. And of course, all the other little benefits that come from.
Well, we owe that to you, Gail. That was, the first thing we did when we considered doing this was to sit down with you on a VIP day and run through what our options were and just get a clear outside opinion of, whether this was a good idea or not, with somebody who had the perspective that we really needed. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad you said yes. I'm so glad you thought it was a great idea. We probably wouldn't be doing this now.
To people. Yeah,
I know you have.
I have. And I just think
I've heard from a few of them.
Oh, that's good. And they're probably thinking, why did she say no to us and not to you?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, if it weren't a good fit, I can't imagine any greater stress that you could put on your marriage than, and it really comes down to what's truly more important, the marriage or the business. And I will say the marriage every time. The relationship is more important. Absolutely. And if that means, working elsewhere, then I would gladly do it if that's what it meant,
Sure. Well, luckily you don't have to do that, and she's got very dependent on your barista skills.
Yeah, well,
so that kind of keeps you hired for sure.
Yeah. That's I find everything I can to make myself marketable.
Well, that's so good. Well, I would love to take a step back and just talk about how you both came from Ohio, and how did you end up in Florida?
It is I'll give you the abbreviated version. Sure. It is a convoluted story. So yeah, Lisa and I went to high school together. My grandmother taught Lisa vacation Bible school when she was a little girl before I ever met her. Most of the time of growing up, I lived in Michigan, and she lived in my father's hometown. And when we moved back there when I was 16, I met her then, and I had just turned 16, and so we were good friends, and part of it was a very small school. There were 55 people in our graduating class, so it was tiny. Yeah. And so she and I were kind of part of the same group, and we, and I always had a big crush on her, but I had when you're in high school, I had a friend who said, no, when she breaks up with that guy, I'm asking her out. And I'm like, yeah, man, do what you got to do, and she was busy dating, captain of the basketball team and other stuff. And I was like third chair trumpet, I didn't have a lot going on. And, so anyway, but we were good friends, and it was really interesting because it just kind of provided a basis for the supportive nature of our relationship, really, even then. And she went to one college, I went to another, and our paths kind of diverged, and I ended up in Naples after college. I took a job with my brother's company in Naples at his construction company and worked there. And she got married and moved to Pennsylvania, and then moved to Boca Raton, and then to Naples. And what's funny is when she moved to Naples, she had lived there when we met again. She had lived there for like 11 years, and I had lived in Naples for I think 17 or 18. And we knew a lot of the same people. We had actually worked on the same projects, her in interior design and I in construction. And at one point, we figured out, going back over the dates, we actually lived in the same apartment complex at the same time. And I know. And at one point, we're pretty sure we were both at the same party. I mean, it was a big party, but it was a project we were both involved in, and we both went to that party. It was just very funny. And of course, she wouldn't have known what to look for, because the last time she saw me, I had hair, and and I certainly would have recognized her, a different last name, but I think I might have, but had I come across her. But anyway, so it took Facebook, actually, and it was her little sister, who actually used to date my little brother, noticed that we both lived in Naples. I got a friend request, we had coffee, and we kind of developed that friendship, picked right back up again, and it was lovely. And so as time went on, our relationship matured, and she needed help with some things that I could do, and we kind of fell in love. So it was a natural thing then to tie the knot and make it a more permanent thing.
I always love how you talk about Lisa. It's so sweet. You've got this big, gushy marshmallow heart.
Well, I kind of do, as far as she's concerned.
Well,
yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about, from the fun stuff to maybe the challenges that you've had in the business, and maybe how your role has helped to manage all of the things you had to go through with those challenges.
Yeah. So, I'm sure that it isn't I'm sure it isn't strange or a strange experience to a lot of interior designers, particularly those without a really sound financial background. Okay, like you have. I know, Gail, your background is very much in finance, and so this is a natural extension of how you would build a business, and that expertise comes through with so many of your clients, including us. But my background is not finance, although I've worked in finance for a number of years in college. I did a lot of bookkeeping. It helped pay the bills, and but that's just a basic familiarity of it, right? And what happened, previous to actually to the last couple of years was there was always, it was always so much work and all of this, so much busyness and so much money coming in. And then the crunch, right? And so the crunch would happen, and then you're worried. Do we have enough work? And things slowed down a little bit, and then so you'd go get a bunch more work, and then you're right back where you were before. And this whole cycle might be 6 months long, maybe a year long, but it was kind of feast or famine, really. And one of my goals as COO and before then, really, as I became more involved with the finances, was to really put a financial discipline in place in our company that would have very strong cash management, so that we could see, with reasonable clarity what the next several months had in store for us. I mean, you never know everything, of course, but the idea that we should be getting this many jobs, we should be getting, we should be bringing in this much in receipts, we should be making this dollar amount in proposals, we should have this number of square footage under design contract at any given time, and those aren't hard and fast, but they're kind of just metric lines, right? And not necessarily a target, but just they let you know, okay, we're a little low. Okay, we're at a little over capacity. And so that's been kind of the challenge and opportunity for me to bring that kind of awareness. When Lisa is neck deep in design and with clients, as she often is, it's really hard to step away and get that kind of clarity and objectivity on a day-to-day basis, and I'm grateful that I've been able to provide that, and we're only just getting started.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've had some other challenges too, and if you don't feel comfortable talking about those, you can omit those. But
no, I'm more than I think if it has a chance of actually helping somebody, or maybe inspiring somebody that would hear this, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to share it. Okay. So a couple of years ago, we had a hurricane blow through town, and I will just put this word out there: insurance. It's really important. And so, due to a strange loophole in that the building that held a large number of our items that we were storing for clients, because it did flood, but the flooding did not actually destroy the merchandise, but the building started to disintegrate, which was wind damage, and it would have been salvageable, except that the warehouse company sequestered everything in their entire building for 2 weeks while they kind of figured out what to do. And in that time, all of our stuff rusted, the wood split, the fabrics mildewed and moldered, and it was just everything. I mean, Gail, it looked like it was, when I finally was able to get access to the things that we owned, it was, the destruction was ridiculous. I had a huge dumpster, and it all just went right in it. Oh, and,
to the tune of several $100,000.
Yes. Yeah. And what do you do with that? Insurance wouldn't cover because of the nature and the sequence of events. Mm-hmm. We spoke with a lawyer. We sent demand letters to our insurance, their insurance, and explored every avenue that we could. But we stopped short of a lawsuit. We felt that, business had, and along with that, we were facing kind of a lull in our business, and this was it was a lull that, and we had expanded our staff, and so it was almost like a perfect storm of, and by expanded I mean like we had several key people leave, and we had new people in their place. So there was a lot of their investment in training, lower productivity, and lower sales, which kind of helped with training, but the money coming in wasn't great. And then we had this storm, and so that put us in a position of it was January 13th, 2023, so not that long ago. And Lisa and I sat down. It was Friday the 13th. I remember specifically. Oh my goodness. And we sat down, and I showed her that if we don't make a change in the next 2 weeks, basically it's close the doors. And so there were tears, there were a lot of questions, a lot of, did we try this, did we try that? And, so as we walked through all the possible solutions, bless her, she's like, okay, we got to do this. And we made changes big time. I mean, I started cutting. I cut expenses if that were just anything that wasn't related to putting design in people's houses. It went. Our marketing budget slashed to nothing really. Our staff development gone. But we do those things so the business would stay alive. And Lisa went out and I have just never met anyone who can say we need to bring in X number of dollars this month. Turned her loose. She gets on the phone, goes to a couple of meetings. Next thing you know, she's walking in with a check. And I'm just like, wow, I should have asked you to do this a couple of months ago. And but she just has, that gift that she can sell. And that's such we get so caught up in, I think, in the purity of design ideas and, the academics of design. But the truth is it comes down to what you can sell. You can either sell it or you can't. It doesn't matter what you can design. It matters what you can sell and put in people's houses. Exactly. And she is really good at that. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness. And so the spigot turned on, and 2023 was just an entire year of, I think I could probably count on two hands the number of times I left the office before 9 p.m. Mm. There were nights where I barely came home. I got home at 11 and I'm up again at 5 and at the office at 8 and we're hitting it again. And it was a lot, and which is kind of why I'm here now, because this is after a year and a half of that, we needed a break. And so, but it was a real challenge, but we came through. In all this time, we didn't cut our salary. Mm. Okay. We never missed a payroll, and I did not let anyone go.
Excellent.
And we were able to actually give everyone a raise. They were brand new employees. Our whole staff was brand new employees. Mm. And it wasn't a huge raise, but everybody got an increase at their 1 year, which was like right in the thick of this. Mm-hmm. And so, we sold, we cut, we prayed, and we came through. We just kept the faith.
Well, and what I took from that was that it's cash flow management, is having research, is having insurance,
yes,
it's, having the ability to go out and sell,
yes,
the willingness to do whatever it takes. It takes all of those things to run a successful business.
It does.
And it's sad that in a way that it really mobilizes the best work when you're in the biggest crisis.
Yes.
If we could just maintain that level throughout, we would never have some of the problems we have, but we all have those.
Yeah, we do.
So let me bring up one other challenge. And again, if this is not something you want to talk about, but it is before that, years ago, I think it was prior to you being on board, Lisa dealt with an embezzlement. And it was and this is something that people don't talk about a lot. And I think it's so important for people to be aware that if somebody has access to your finances, you need to have checks and balances in place to make sure that you don't have somebody taking advantage of the situation. So speak to that.
Happy to talk about it. So I was not there during that time, which is a good thing, because if I were, I'd probably be in jail right now.
I hear you.
We'd be holding this broadcast from jail and live from cell block D. So basically, what it comes down to, as a business owner, if you're not looking at your financial health, there's nobody else who will. You cannot sub that accountability out. Nobody will take it. Nobody will care about it the way you do. Nobody will. To everyone else, it's just a cash pot of money that your savings and your business savings and your operating account is, and they kind of look at it like that. And not to cast aspersions on anyone's employees, but nobody will take that accountability from you, and you can't hire anyone who will look after it in the final analysis. the way that you will. Now you can hire people who are very skilled and people who are highly qualified and people who have utmost integrity. And all the same, though, they cannot shepherd it for you. You need to look at the numbers and you need to understand what they mean. So when when Lisa hired a woman that she was just looking for a bookkeeper, somebody to kind of do the things and give her the reports and enter the invoices and do the stuff. As it turns out, Lisa found out after the fact that this woman had a history that was hidden with name change and other things. And this was really kind of at the beginning of the internet era. Okay. So it was really much more difficult to skip trace people and do a background check. And she was a tiny business. I think she had 4 people. And so she didn't really have those resources to do that sort of thing anyway. But it wasn't long before, afterward they found out that she was taking 2 paychecks. Nobody knew. She had opened several credit cards in Lisa's name and had run them up and then not paid them. And so, there was a whole, in total, the embezzlement was over $100,000. And how it was discovered was very interesting in that she had at that point one client who was very interested in acquiring her company and said, Lisa said, I'd really love to talk about this. And that gentleman said, well, our first step is to send over my accountants and we'll go through your books and, have a look at how financially healthy you were. And what's interesting is that as soon as Lisa announced this, that person quit right away. And so then they went, she didn't think anything of it. They went through, and it was another company's accountants that went through and found all of this stuff. And so, it was tough. It was tough for her. But she was talking to her father, who has always been her mentor and an inspiration to her. And he said, well, sweetheart, you just got your $100,000 MBA right there. There it is. And you just got to, pick it up and keep moving. And, she did. She's tough. And she is
Determined.
She is determined. She's got grit. And it's one of the things I admire the most about her.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing both of those stories.
Yeah.
Those are very, very challenging stories. And that's so much money that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
And I remember the celebration, and I think I got a text right after you paid off the embezzlement
Yes.
loan that you had to take out. So just be aware. I think just what I would say to people listening is don't trust people without proof, and always have checks and balances in place so that you can keep an eye on your finances and not ever get yourself there, hopefully. But I've had other clients go through embezzlement too, so it's not like it's that unusual. We have so much money flowing through our businesses.
Yes, and it's not ours.
For it to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, I think people have an idea that they're creative and therefore they don't have the capacity for financial understanding or thought. And I will tell you that this is just not true. You do have that capacity. And
everyone does.
Everyone does. And just like you have the capacity to brush your teeth, no one is too creative to brush their teeth. So what I would do is it's just a matter of learning to think in a slightly different way. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest obstacle to creatives like designers in understanding financial accountability and financial concepts is shame, honestly. I don't know this. I should know this. I don't know this. I can't ask that question because then it will betray how much I do not know. And I will tell you, ask the questions, ask the hard questions. Say, okay, can you just go over this one more time with me? Because I'm just really not getting it. Explain it to me as if you were explaining it to a 5-year-old, and if you do that and you just get over that idea of shame, nobody is born knowing this stuff. And it's okay not to know it. But if you don't ask, then you really put yourself at a disadvantage.
You have been such a rock for her and helped her with so many different things. And I know that it's a big decision for people to decide to work together. So what would you tell other people who have a spouse who's interested in joining the business? What should they be looking for and what should they consider?
Okay. There's a number of layers to that. One is the very nature of the people involved. Okay. I, for one, I'm just not one who's ever had a problem with strong women. I like strong women. You know what I mean? And
Good thing.
yeah, exactly. And and I feel honored to be able to play a part in this business. And I feel that every day. I do not feel, because I'm the male in this relationship, that I have any sort of claim to better judgment, to any inborn right to tell Lisa how things are going to be. There are those that do have that. And I would tell you, if that's part of your relationship, maybe working together isn't the best way to go about that. I don't have it. I never have. And so, Lisa and I have discussions, and we really do approach them as equal partners. And I mean, from the first word. But what facilitates our working together very well is the fact that, she did this for 11 years before she even met me, and she did just fine. And so, at most I can help, but the final word is hers. It does not say Philip Allen Designs on the door. Thank goodness.
Right.
I'm the last person you want picking your sofa. But but kind of knowing where that line is and saying, okay, we've discussed it. I've made my case. The answer's still no. All right, we're done. I'm dropping. We're moving on. And being able to do that, we also have boundaries that we put in place for ourselves, like, 8 o'clock at night rolls around. I say optimistically 8 o'clock. It's more like 9 or 10 sometimes, but we shoot for 8. No more business. No more discussions. We catch ourselves all the time. I'm like, and then I'm like, I can't talk about that. she's like, don't, and the next thing I know, she's bringing up a business. I'm like, no, can't do that. And so, we have those boundaries in place, but I mean, like, having the boundaries, being able to stay in your lane and just not take it personally. Okay, I'm not being discounted. There's a lot of my ideas that she's actually really loved, and so it's not my self-worth is not tied to how my ideas are received, and how our discussions go, and that's a good thing.
Sure. What are the big adjustments that Lisa had to make to have you come in the business?
Well, she just wasn't used to having anybody weigh in on stuff. She was used to just making decisions and done with it. And so, that's a blessing. There are two edges on that particular sword, okay? The first one is that, well, I guess I really need to talk to Philip about this before I just say yes. And so, okay, so I will go have that conversation instead of just telling the person yes. Then the other one, though, is actually you get to talk to somebody about that before you say yes, which is really great. And then, if we talk about it and we still don't have a really great grasp of it, there are other resources. We reach out to you, Gail, or I think we did just recently about a certain thing. And, so that not kind of acting as a sole independent operative in the world of business was an adjustment for her. But at the same time, she has been gracious and I think overly kind when she says it. But she said, she said, I do my best to quote her, but it's a paraphrase really. She said, I have never wanted to let anyone into the inner workings of this business before. And I'm just so thrilled that you and I get to do this together. And I have to tell you, it is really gratifying. What's funny is you would think that our office isn't that big. We spend all day working at the same business and we go home, but we still have to catch up. I mean, she's been in meetings all day. I've been in meetings all day. We really don't know how each other's day has gone. And so, we get home and catch up on everything. And it's funny. We're not in each other's shadow all day long, which you might think would be the case, but not so with us.
Mm. Well, I'm sure you had some adjustments too when you came to work for her. What would those be?
I think, my biggest adjustment was actually cultural. Okay. Coming from construction, you can imagine the level of toxicity of Theory X management of, I sign your paycheck, so yes, you are going to do that. That kind of mentality, and that is the nature of the business that I came from. Now, not to say that every construction business is like that, but the one I worked at certainly was. And I had to unlearn so much of that theory, so much of that threatening people is not how you get anything done. And, it's been a long process for me, but one that has just been so rewarding. I go in now to our office and I look at our staff and I realize that every single one of them is basically volunteering to be there every day. Yes, we pay them, but they could go anywhere and probably, do, I don't know if they could do as well as they do with us. I hope not, but I hope we're above that. But they could work anywhere and they would flourish, I'm sure. Maybe not as much as they would with us, but they're volunteering. They choose to be there every day. And I'm just so grateful for them. And so I try to approach every interaction with our staff as if I'm speaking to a volunteer, someone who is just really of their own volition is choosing to show up and do good work. And I have to tell you though, my personal gratitude for the people in our office is because having approached it like that is just through the roof. Mm-hmm. And it has colored every interaction, and learning how to always assume positive intent with people, which is something I picked up from one of our sessions years ago, and I just really, that has made such an impact on how we deal with each other, with Lisa and I, and with our staff. And those are things that I had to really consciously learn. That has been my biggest adjustment. And yeah, instead of, why? Because I told you that's why, and because if you don't, I'm going to fire you. That's kind of where I came from. And so I've done a whole 180 there. And I remember getting pulled aside by Lisa early and dealing with a couple of subcontractors, I think a wallpaper guy. And he and I had what I used to call a come to Jesus meeting. And basically I eviscerated him, and I told him if he ever wanted to work in this town again, then he was going to fix all of this stuff and he was going to do it for free. And, and I think about that meeting now and I wish I could take it back.
Well, that's one of the things I love about you is your soft heart and your kindness. And I also love that you have a beverage ministry for in your life, and your music ministry. And these are some amazing skills that I've had the pleasure of enjoying over the years. So
Oh,
how has that added to the joy and fun in your business?
it's added a lot, honestly. We're just, one of the things that has, when you're in your 30s and early 40s, it's a lot about drive. It's a lot about getting it done. It's a lot about getting, that key project and all those things. And in the time since then, I think for us, it's been a journey of learning that business is for life, not the other way around. That the experiences that we have, the quality of the experience that we have day in and day out, is really the essence of what we're doing. It's why we do it. And if that is not a quality experience, then we need to really sit down and examine, what changes we can make. If dealing with staff is unpleasant, then, a change is necessary. If you really don't want to go into the office for one reason or another, and it's not really a joy or a pleasure or an honor to do that, then look at that, because our daily experience, the moment by moment, being alive, breath to breath, that's what it's for. It's just, it's for that. It should be enjoyable. And not everything is obviously enjoyable. I really don't love, doing the financial analysis that I have to do, on a monthly and quarterly basis. It's very satisfying once it's done, but the actual doing of it is not my favorite. But I should say the doing and redoing of it is not my favorite. But
especially the redoing part, right?
Yeah. And but it's actually we just have really been focusing on the quality of our experience on this planet, and Lisa's kind of her vision and her mission of Sanctuary really has played into that, because we are just, and Gail, again, this comes back to you, because years ago when we came to you and talked about this, about Sanctuary, what it is and how, we couldn't even express it really. Which is funny because Lisa's downstairs right now working on her book about this very topic, and so she's gotten a lot better at expressing, what it is and how to get it. And but you're the one that challenged her and both of us. Really, is you can't just talk about this. You need to live this. If this is real, if this is a thing, you got to live it. And that really set us a series of events in motion that have caused us to change how we think about what we're doing every day. Because if it isn't, not everything is great, not everything is wonderful, but everything is meaningful, and even washing the dishes is meaningful. And are we of that level of mindfulness all the time? No, of course not. But always knowing that it's just right there, the being present in the moment and all of that. That's why we do it, just to actually live a more meaningful and more beautiful life, really.
Well, that is so great. Let's end this with talking about maybe 3 takeaways that you'd like to share with the audience, maybe some things we talked about today, or just maybe some things that you think would be helpful to our listeners.
I guess the first thing that I would say is, I am not an entrepreneur. Okay, I'm going to qualify what I'm about to say by saying that I'm not. I live with one. I work for one. I'm married to one. I get to be with an entrepreneur every day, and I'm more of a systems and that sort of thing kind of guy. And you point the direction, and I'll figure out how to get us there. But don't ask me to point the direction, right? So I would say, though, that from somebody who has a very front row seat to the entrepreneurial experience, I would say that it is one of the primary honors of life to engage in life that way, to create something that is valuable to others to the point where it provides for you and your family and for your staff and for their families. I can't think of anything more honorable and more almost, I would say, sacred than that. And I think that's a really marvelous thing. And so if you are listening to this and you're a designer and you have started a business, God bless you. That is just good for you. You have taken an incredible step, and what an honor that is. And I don't know you, but I'm proud of you. So that's one. I would say too, I would say I go back to cash management, because I would say that, my brother, he was he is a really intelligent person that and he told me that cash management is so important. He said it's like when the economy takes a tank. He said it's like being in the ocean, and when the tide goes out, and you can see who's got their bathing suit on and who doesn't. And he said the tide will always go out at one point or another. Make sure you have your bathing suit on. And it's a great analogy, very picturesque, but that's really what it is. Because like when things are great, when money is rolling in, as humans, we have a bias toward thinking that it's always going to be like this, and it isn't. And when our business is just sucking wind, when we can't seem to get anything going, our human bias kicks in and thinks it's always going to be like this, and it robs us of hope, and it doesn't. And somehow we've got to find that objectivity and remind ourselves constantly, this too shall pass. And that's really important. And and cash management, good cash management, helps that pass faster.
Yes.
Yeah. The third thing I would say is find some friends. If you are, and Gail, I don't know who you're going to be sharing this with, but I can't urge anyone who might hear this strongly enough. Find your peer group. Get involved with Gail. Get involved with the other programs that you've got, because the sharing and of knowledge and the camaraderie and the support that you get is desperately needed. Being an entrepreneur, especially in design, can be a very lonely business, and you need that support network. So that would be my third takeaway.
That is a perfect ending. Thank you so much, Philip.
You're very welcome. I believe it.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I just want to say that it's my pleasure, Gail.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Philip, for joining Gail on the podcast this week. Financials may be frightening, but keeping tabs on them is critically important for your business. If you want to learn the language of finance and take charge of your business's cash flow, sign up for our upcoming financial masterclass, which is happening next week, Thursday, June 13th. Learn more at thepearlcollective.com/JuneFinance.